We spoke to Ashok Gulati, agriculture professor at ICRIER, and when we asked him about the concerns that are there because of high food inflation, and then he also suggested some of the measures that the government should start taking before we are into a difficult situation. Let's listen in. So, Mr. Gulati, the IMD has also come out with their second set of forecast, and they are saying that now the monsoon is even going to be weaker than their earlier prediction. Even El Nino chance has increased. What's your sense?
Well, the sense is very clear. One, that the farmers are going to lose their income from subnormal rainfall. So the issue is, can the government be ready for a compensation package to the farmers first? In certain states, if there is a severe drought, how do we compensate them? That's number one. Number two, the food prices are likely to take a lift if there is a drop in production substantial. Now, what do we do about it? So I think best thing would be whatever stocks we have at present, the excess stocks beyond the need of the Food Security Act, I think they need to be liquidated in the domestic market. We need to also augment the import supplies, particularly for fruits and vegetables, milk or meat or any other where the pressure is even more. And that means cutting down import duties, because overnight if you cannot increase production, you can augment the supplies by reducing import duties. Most of these commodities attract duties more than 30% or so. In certain cases it goes all the way to 100%. Third, I think we need to get back to in terms of building our supply lines properly. I think this is a lesson that we have to learn as early as possible. Right. Otherwise, there will be high volatility in prices. And don't forget, onion can create another problem.
Onion can make the governments cry like it did last time.
Yes, I think onion is a commodity to be washed. So my suggestion to the government would be count your onions. In October, they can create a problem.
Right. And sir, now last time when we spoke to you, you mentioned that all El Nino years are not necessarily drought years, but all drought years had some impact of an El Nino. Now there are 70% chance of an El Nino. According to you, is this a panic situation? Should the government start preparing from now onwards, or they should wait for things to emerge later?
You know, if you look in the trends from 1980 onwards or so, and that's what you find, all drought years are El Nino years, but all El Nino years are not necessarily drought years. In fact, half the El Nino years are not drought years in India. But we also looked at statistically on a long-term basis, roughly every 4.6 years or so, India experiences a drought. The last one was in 2009. So in a way, some drought conditions are more or less due in 2014. So I would say don't panic, but be on the alert. Situation is not going to be very smooth. And issues are, farmers are going to suffer first. So what sort of a mechanism you put in place for them? Consumers are going to suffer, so what sort of mechanisms you... So that's what I think government is on the alert. Government has already told, and I think government machinery is put into high gear on that front. And I hope the El Nino question at present, what they are saying is it will come after August. So we may escape the worst part of El Nino, but September there could be early withdrawal of rainfall.
They are saying that the El Nino is going to be at its peak towards the end of July and the first week of August. That's when we'll see the maximum impact.
So my feeling is somewhere towards the end of August or September, there could be early withdrawal of rainfall. I'm not 100% sure, and nor are the weather scientists as on today. But we have to be ready. So that's only what we can do. We cannot tame nature.
And sir, if you talk about the specific crops which are likely to get impacted the most, and what measures should the farmers start taking from here on to prevent themselves from a possible drought?
You know, I'm not worried about too much on rice and wheat and basic staples because what they are saying, it's going to hit the northwest, which is more irrigated tract.
Right.
So
yeah,
they can easily cope up with that. I'm worried about central India or Gujarat or Maharashtra or Karnataka where irrigation is somewhat less. And that's a pulses belt, oilseeds belt, cotton belt. So those commodities can be hurt.
Right.
And we have to be, they are already on import free list. Pulses have zero import duty and we have very low duty on edible oils. I would say that fruits and vegetables is going to be again an issue. How do we tame that? And my suggestion to the government would be reduce their duties as early as possible.
Right, so that onions don't make people cry. Last question. Last question. What are your expectations from the budget this year? What are you expecting, especially in the agriculture sector?
If the indications from the manifesto and the president's speech are clear, I think in agriculture, 2, 3 things are coming out very clearly. They want to augment the incomes of the farmers, and that needs to be done by augmenting productivity. That means focus on water.
Right.
That means you have to give more allocations to irrigation and maybe streamline and contain the subsidies on fertilizers or food or others to find money. I would call it the challenge of moving from doles to development expenditures.
Right.
And if they can do that, then it's a win-win situation. Productivity can be raised, production can be stabilized, farmers' incomes can go up. But can they touch fertilizer subsidy or food subsidy? That's a challenge to be seen.